If you have any information about Gabby's case, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-220-8477 or the FBI at 800-CALL-FBI. Okay, these reports have just been released. This is domestic violence report that was made, and it reads, this is from Daniel Scott Robbins, and it reads, on August the 12th, 2021 at approximately 16:44 hours, I responded to a possible domestic violence in progress call. A van with both a male and female as occupants was reported leaving the area of 39 East and 100 North northbound on Main Street. One of the witnesses described the vehicle as a white Ford Transit van with a black ladder on the rear with Florida license plate. Witness Christopher reported seeing a male, later identified as Brian Laundrie, and a female, later identified as Gabby Petito, arguing over a phone. Christopher stated that when Brian got into the van, he saw what appeared to him as Gabrielle hitting Brian in the arm and then climbing through the driver's window as if Brian had locked her out and she was trying to find a way in. I located a white van that matched the description on North Main Street at the Highway 128 turnoff. After I crossed the bridge, I was able to catch up to the van at the turn to Arches National Park. I confirmed the vehicle license plate and initiated the stop. I followed the vehicle as it continued toward the entrance gate to Arches National Park. I noted the van traveling approximately 45 miles an hour in the 15-mile-per-hour speed zone. After I had activated my lights to initiate a traffic stop, I watched the van cross the double yellow dividing line in the lane 1. Merged to lane 2, and abruptly swerved to the right. When the vehicle swerved, both the front and rear passenger side wheel hit the curb. A short distance before the entrance gate, the vehicle came to a stop. I approached the vehicle and I saw the only occupants being Gabrielle and Brian. Gabrielle, who was in the passenger seat, was crying uncontrollably. I asked Gabrielle to get out of the vehicle to speak with me, and Gabrielle told me that she suffers from blank with blank. She continued, because of her blank and blank. Combined with little arguments she and Brian had been having that day, she was struggling with her lights. She hit Brian in the arm to get his attention, which in turn caused him to hit the curb while I was following them. I asked Gabrielle if her intention was to hurt Brian, and her response was that she did not intend to hurt him, but rather get his attention to notice me as I was behind them with my lights on. At no point in my investigation did Gabrielle stop crying, breathing heavily, or compose a sentence without needing to wipe away tears, wipe her nose, or rub her knees with her hands. And with Officer Eric Pratt's report, I arrived on scene and observed as 2 park officers also arrived. I assisted Officer Robbins with his investigation until I was called away to a report of an intoxicated male near MRH posting a safety risk to himself or others. Before leaving, I spoke with the male driver of the van, the female passenger, and also called Chris to get more information from him. All 3 individuals gave me a similar and consistent story, consisting of the basic idea that the driver of the van, a male, had some sort of argument with the female, Gabby, as I recall. The male tried to create distance by telling Gabby to go take a walk to calm down. She did not want to be separated from the male and began slapping him. He grabbed her face and pushed her back as she pressed upon him and the van. He tried to lock her out and succeeded, except for the driver's door. She opened that and forced her way over him and into the vehicle before it drove off. No one reported that the male struck the female, Both the male and the female reported they are in love and engaged to be married and desperately didn't wish to see anyone charged with a crime. There was no significant injuries reported, and both agreed that Gabby suffers from serious anxiety, etc. It appeared that this incident was more accurately categorized as a mental emotional health break than a domestic assault. I had to leave, but I understand that Officer Robbins got the male lodging through Suffolk County. Gabby retained possession of the van and they agreed to separate for the night. No charges were filed and no one wishes for charges to be filed or for the separation to take place. Although this was at minimum what Officer Robbins required in lieu of making a case against Gabby for domestic assault. Gabby is a 22-year-old female who is approximately 5'2" to 5'4" and 110 to 120 pounds. While her fiancé is older, taller, and much heavier than her, he had no fear for his safety and did not exhibit any indicators that he may be a victim of battered boyfriend syndrome, etc. He was assessed to be at lower risk of danger or harm as a result of his proximity to his fiancée Gabby, nothing further. And the third responding officer, Daniel Scott Robbins. And it reads, after I set Gabrielle in the back seat of my car, I asked Brian to step out of the vehicle to speak with me. He told me they both suffer from blank, and although her blank is more advanced than his, issues between the two had been building over the last few days. This in turn caused them to argue more than usual. Brian told me neither he nor Gabby take medication for their blank. Brian explained he and Gabrielle have been traveling together for the last 4 to 5 months. That time spent created emotional strain between them and increased the number of arguments. While arguing near Main Street, he had attempted to separate from her, and so they could both calm their emotions. He got into the van, and Gabrielle had gone into a manic state. Brian said Gabrielle, thinking he was going to leave her in Moab without a ride, went to slap him. As Gabrielle started to swing, Brian pushed her away to avoid the slap. As a result, Gabrielle, off balance, but still caught Brian's face with some fingers, causing some minor visible scratches. Brian continued that when he had seen my lights, he thought Gabrielle had grabbed the wheel of the van and pulled it, causing the van to hit the curb. I observed some small scratches to Brian's right arm, and when I asked him about he supposed they must have happened when Gabrielle was trying to get his attention about me being behind them with my lights on. This, however, was not consistent with Gabrielle's statement, further suggesting her confused and emotional state. After evaluating the totality of the circumstances, I do not believe the situation escalated to the level of a domestic assault as much as that of a mental health crisis. I then determined the most appropriate course of action would be to help separate the parties for the night, so they could reset their mental states without interference from one another. And although they did express a desire to remain together, they both ultimately agreed to be separated until the following day. Accordingly, I was able to contact Safe Haven to get Brian a hotel room for the night. I instructed both Brian and Gabrielle to take advantage of this time apart to relax their emotions and regain control of their anxiety. I also asked them to avoid contacting each other until the next morning, if at all possible. Gabrielle maintained possession of the van while I transported Brian to the hotel. They did both have their own cell phones in case of emergency. Around 1900 hours, I went to Blank, where witness Christopher Blank lived, and had him fill out a statement form. Christopher told me that he was not entirely sure what it is that he had seen, but feared the worst, which is why he came forward as a witness and agreed to complete a written statement. Body camera video is available on evidence.com. The statement from Christopher has been filed at Moab City Police Department. End of report. As of this time, I do not have access to the body cam footage spoken of in this report, when I do have access to that, and if I do, I will be sharing it with you guys, of course, as well.